Hello guys and girls, how's it going? Screezilla here and I hope you're all well. And it's naval update time again. Yeah, I thought it's been a bit of time since I last did a naval beta sort of check in and update and chat and stuff like that, so I thought maybe I'll do one. And this is the state of naval at the moment in realistic battle. As you can see here, we have we've got a couple of players. Yeah, this is the team levels you're looking at. You're pretty much looking at games every time of just about 5 to 6 players each side, nothing more. It's very rare you get a decent sized match at the moment, and a lot of that's to do with the Operation Summer event. Of course, people are busy grinding, but people have really lost interest in naval play. It's just how it is. And it's just going to get worse. I don't understand Gaijin's logic, really, with releasing the helicopters before this is finished. I understand they're having problems with naval, and they are testing larger ships and all this stuff, but it doesn't look like they're going down that path. We had today announced a new map, well, 2 new maps for naval. So we had the Mediterranean Port and the Green Mountains Gulf, and both maps are very samey. They pretty much look identical to every other map in the sort of Navy. The Mediterranean Port one is actually interesting. The Green Mountains is just it just looks like a couple of other maps that exist. It's just some big islands with a lot of expansive water. There's nothing really interesting there. The port, however, is a little bit more interesting. There are quite a lot of small islands. There is the port itself, so I'm wondering if somebody will actually be, one Sonic team will be starting in the port, but I doubt it. You'll probably start either side, and then there'll be the usual caps of A, B and C for them. And that's something I wanted to talk about today, really, is the caps, and how they really need to do something different for naval. We're just water tanks at the moment, and that's all it is it's just, you know, naval is just capping A, B and C, and that's all it is. That's the only gameplay, is shooting people and capping. And really there should be something a bit different for that. It needs to have something that's a bit more involved, really, because it really doesn't have anything at the moment. It's struggling a lot, and you know, players aren't really playing it because, well, it's pretty boring. You know, especially in realistic battles. As you can see here, we're just getting a bit of hammering from our friendly player there, just because of the secondary guns. They just open up. I'm using the 1924 here, and this thing is an absolute beast because it's got some decent armour to it. So you can take a few hits. As you saw there, I took a big hit on the back section of my of one of my turrets, and basically it didn't really do anything because well, the armour on there helped out because the guy's using HE rounds, so it didn't really do much for affect me. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, basically the current gameplay is really just, it's not changed much, and there's still the problem of if you're playing a smaller PT boat, you're going to get absolutely hammered by destroyers if they can hit you, of course. It's all a matter of hitting, but once they do, they really do cause a huge amount of damage. And it is just this whole thing of who can cap the zones, and I don't understand why they removed the convoy missions that we had in the Arctic map, because they were actually something different and interesting and a different style of gameplay. And yes, it needed some work, but it was actually interesting and made things different. It changed up the whole gameplay experience, really. It wasn't just, you know, capping and just shooting, which is all that we have nowadays. Naval combat seems like it does need something different. It's not like tanks, which tanks almost act like a first-person shooter. I hope you understand what I'm saying here, but tanks, you can sort of play it like an FPS. You're sort of you're moving, you've got your gun, you've only got one thing to worry about, movement. Well, sorry, not one thing, but you've only got the one vehicle to worry about. You're just moving and shooting and keeping everything in check. And with a ship, it's very different because you've got many guns on board, you've got torpedoes, you've got depth charges, you could have mines, there's all the crew bits, there's all the repairs, there's so much more to do. But also, naval combat is not it's not often fought in knife fighting ranges, it's not often fought this close to each other. Destroyers sometimes got there, but generally, it wasn't. And if there was a cruiser in this game, the cruiser would have won the game, basically. It's very unbalanced, but naval combat should be unbalanced, because it was one-sided sometimes. I mean, if you look at Jutland, it was very one-sided. The Royal Navy really had the huge advantage, but blunders were made, and therefore the Germans could, do what they needed to and actually take advantage and strategically take over the win. As you saw in this fight here, I was just fighting the whatever destroyer that was, the PR-7U. He was firing HE rounds at me, and he couldn't do anything to me because I had armor. And that was a good fight because obviously he was moving it up a bit by firing HE rounds at me, not penetrating me, so I could take his hits and basically deal out more damage. But that's the sort of thing that is really interesting for naval combat, and they don't have it. Other things that have been announced, well, there's not really been anything else announced. The main thing people are speculating is helicopters, of course, and helicopters are very, very useful in naval combat. They're used for submarine chasing, mine spotting, mine laying, scouting, rescue, lots and lots of things. Torpedoes, even helicopters would drop torpedoes. So they've got many options, and helicopters could be a real game changer, especially if they get sort of 80 air-to-ground missiles or air-to-ship missiles. With the current guided missile that we got, that thing would be deadly against a ship. But there's not been any real news. Another thing that is causing problems with the community at large is just the feeling like we're not being listened to. And that's something that is very problematic at the moment with the naval beta, is we're telling them things and everybody is talking about problems and issues and bugs, but gameplay problems, why it isn't fun, what is fun, what isn't fun, what is good, what isn't good, and these things just seem to be ignored in favour of we're doing this now, rather than, okay, we've taken on board what you said, we'll try it out. There's no real trial in this beta. The other problem, of course, is the fact that you need to grind so much to get there. I've put a lot of hours into getting this boat itself. The Type 1924 is one of the later destroyers for the German tech tree. And, of course, I've got the Carl Gustav, so I've got the premium boat. But having that, means I can grind a bit quicker, but it still takes an awful long time. Now, just here's an interesting thing. My distance measurement was not really getting on target for that T-34 there. I can never remember the name of that boat, but basically a T-34 turret. But I had to actually dial it in myself, and that was really good. That made it more interesting. I had to actually dial in my shot and work out the distance for it. I actually had to work out how far away I was and where I was hitting and use my gun sights, and that is really what we want to see for naval, not just this whole point-and-click adventure of just shooting everything with complete ease. The actual rangefinders maybe have it so your rangefinders come up and you've got to set the ranges yourselves a little bit more. Now, you can't have it completely unautomated, because if it was like that, it would be hellish. You need some sort of automatic ranging, because it is quite hard to dial it in. But having it so you need to dial it in yourself so you can actually do those changes really would be quite cool. There is still the problem of smaller boats still sometimes taking a lot of hits. That LS there didn't really show that off very much, but basically these smaller wooden boats really can take an absolute punishing before they sink, and that it can be problematic. We've got one of the hydrofoils there, and try and get some hits on that, but you know, with the large caliber destroyer guns, when they're hitting something made of wood, it should cause a lot of damage, and it really doesn't. The other issue is still fires. Fires are still a problem, of course. Everybody's really not having fun with it. The whole needing to research fire prevention and parts is still a major problem in naval, and still something that's not been addressed, which is highly problematic for the community at large, because it's something we've been telling them constantly and they just seem to ignore it. It would be almost like flooding was not, the flooding system was a there we go, it's taken care of the PR191M there with relative ease, but that's the kind of damage that these destroyer guns do to a smaller ship. That guy was sort of black on two parts of his ship though, and that was an ammunition explosion, of course, but there is still this problem that fire prevention and parts need to be unlocked, and when you do unlock a new ship, it takes a long time to unlock those items, and you're pretty much useless without those items, especially parts. Fire prevention is really frustrating, because if you get hit, if I got hit on my smokestack saying it caught fire, that fire would then spread to my whole ship. It doesn't go out, it doesn't get put out at all, it keeps going. So it's really annoying in that respect. Then parts are a big issue as well, because if you don't have parts, say I was hit constantly and all my guns were taken out, there's nothing I can do, I just have to J out, which again is very frustrating. It can be a really frustrating situation. There's a lot of luck involved with the sort of ranging system. There is an RNG to it, and that is something that people have been complaining about, because there doesn't seem to be any skill in that respect either. Anyway, that's my sort of naval report for now. I will of course come back with you for more details. I'm still working on the bloody Emden. I'm not sure if I'll unlock it, in all honesty, because there's a lot of research points needed for it. It's a long way to go, basically, and yeah, we'll just hop back to the hangar here and I'll just show you how far I've got, really. It is just a long process getting that thing, and from what we've been told is our accounts are getting wiped once this is over as well. So all this effort that we've put in, hours of playing, and to get the Emden, it's 100,000 research points, which is a fair amount when you only get back that last game I played, I only got 2,000 research points. So that's a lot of games, that's a long time of grinding, and if you're going to just lose it afterwards, then it's kind of pointless as well. Because again, we can't test all the boats, and that's another thing, of course, that people have been complaining about, is the fact that they want us to test things, but to test everything we would have to put so many hours into actually grinding things out just to test them, just to have them wiped off our account. It's a very thankless task, and basically, we're paying for this privilege of testing. We're not getting paid for it. This is a thing, is when you're testing something. I've done alpha and beta tests for companies and games in the past, and a great example I'll give is Star Wars Galaxies with Sony Online Entertainment way back. I was in the alpha testing for that, and I didn't buy my way into it. It was an invitation. I had to actually write almost a resume for it. I got invited into it, and I didn't earn anything from it other than a couple of things in game, but my time was appreciated, and bug reports I gave in and reports of the gameplay and reports of the systems were listened to. We had a lot of email communication with the developers, and they actually really appreciated it, and when the game did come out, I sort of got it at a discounted rate and had, a couple of months paid subscription fee, which, it was I probably made about, from that, it was probably about £50, but it was still, that's really nice to have, whereas with this, I've probably spent £50 to come in, well, more than £50 to test it, and so I'm paying for this privilege, yet the only reward I get is a decorative anchor for my tanks and a title, which is not really that grand. And, I'm not saying they should reward us more, I'm just saying that they should actually listen to us more and realise that people are paying to test their product, and with that they need to actually listen to us and respect what's actually happening and give us feedback. They need to be a bit more open with the testers. I mean, the forums are just, there's stuff on there, but it's very, you say what's happening, and basically no devs will actually comment on it. You'll just get other players being like, yes, I agree, no, I don't agree, and that's pretty much it. And for some nations it's much worse for the testing. I mean, for Russia example, the actual research points needed for some of the ships are ludicrous. The PR-159, for instance, is 220,000 research points required, which is double the cruiser, and you need to unlock this to get the cruiser. You need to unlock 2 of these, so if you're grinding this like I am without the premium, I'd also need to unlock the France. So I would need to do 270,000 research points to get that, spend a lot of silver lions to get to this point, and honestly I'm not putting in that effort. I really can't be asked. It's there is no way I'm putting in that much effort. And the American tech tree is not as bad, but there's still a lot of research points needed to get there. But you look at the research points needed for the American tech tree, for instance, it's much less. For some reason the Russian tech tree is ludicrous and requires basically, a stupid amount of research points to get, and that's something that's not been addressed either. Anyway, I'm going to end there. So that's the current state of naval testing. Any more news, I will come back to you with that. And until next time, this is me, Screezilla, out. Bye bye. Does. This guy's coming in for a head on. Don't want any of that. Oh! Oh, that was beautiful! Holy crap, that was hilarious.